class, welcome to Geometry 101. We're going to be looking at some basic terms of geometry that are going to help us learn a lot more and cover a lot of topics that go deeper in geometry. So to start out, I want you to think to yourselves, have you ever tried to define the following words to a complete stranger? So the first word I want you to think about is the word and. Well, and you could say it means also, but if someone doesn't know what the word and means, they probably don't know what the word also means either. So it's still kind of hard to define. Or another hard one I think is the word the. Like what is the? Or the word of. They're really hard to define without actually using the words themselves in the definition. So with that idea, it's kind of impossible to define these, but we still all know what they mean just from growing up and listening to other people use them in sentences. So we just have to accept the fact that there are actually undefined terms somewhere throughout the world, and there are a lot of different subjects that have these types of words, including geometry, and we're going to look at some of those right now. So some undefined terms in geometry include the word point, line, and distance. And these are actually pretty important. So you can see here's a point, we all know what a line is, and distance along a line or a curve, is pretty straightforward. So like if you were to take the distance from Dubois to this little yellow spot here, all you do is really take the stretch of road you have to travel with all of its curves and turns, maybe like stretch it out so it's straight, and then use a ruler to measure it. So that's kind of, the basic idea behind distance that we all have come to understand. However, there are some definitions that we do need to know that use these undefined terms to define them, and these include angle, circle, perpendicular line, parallel line, and line segment. And I've got some pictures here to give some examples of a few of those. So what can we agree on with these undefined terms? We have to kind of have some sort of agreement on what to call them, and most people agree on the fact that point is like an exact location in space. So like right here is a point, and right here is a point, and right here is a point. Points are everywhere. A line is a set of points, so a bunch of points that are in a legitimately a cohesive path, and that extends forever in both directions. An array is similar to a line, except for the fact that it's a set of points that extend forever in only one direction. And distance, like we said, is basically the length between 2 points. And like I said, we need these undefined terms in order to basically be the building blocks of the definitions of words that we also need to know. So the first word we want to start out defining is line segment. And this is in fact the part of a line that is between 2 points. And those points have to be found on that line. So here's a picture to give an example. So you can see here's a line starting over here, goes on forever in both directions. And there are these 2 points on the line, A and B. So basically the part of the line that's between them is going to be called a line segment. And we'll talk about how we name line segments later on in class when we are all meeting back together. So as you can see, I kind of emphasized this line segment here between 2 points that are on a line. Alright, so the next term we want to define is a circle. And this is in fact the set of all points that are the same distance from one central point, the center of the circle. So you can see we've got some of these undefined terms showing up in these definitions. And to help us visualize a circle, I'm going to use GeoGebra here. Alright, so what I did was I made a circle, and I started out by picking this central point, and then all I did was selected another point, this point B here. And the GeoGebra was able to draw a circle through that point based on basically where I picked my center and where that second point is. And what I did was I drew this line segment from the center to the outside of the circle, and basically I didn't draw it to this outside of the circle, but what I did was I told GeoGebra, okay, I want my segment to start at this point, and I want it to have a fixed length, and I want it to be of length length b. So what I did was, so you can see that as I traverse this point around the circle, this length never changes. So if I pick any point on the circle, that length never changes. But let's say I take this point. So this point kind of defines where the circle is actually at. If I take it and let's say I stretch my circle out a little bit more, you can see that this distance is, increasing or changing with how I stretch this point. So now you can see that all the points are now a different distance from the center, but they're all still the same distance. And that's the important part of a circle, that all the points are the same distance. I can change this up. I can maybe bring them in closer to the center. So now they're still all the same distance apart. And that's a circle. The next topic we want to look at is an angle. And angles are formed when you have two rays, so those are basically like half of a line, when those two rays share a common endpoint. So here we have two rays. They're extending in one direction each, and they both start at the same point or endpoint. And we'll be talking about different types of points in class 2, because an endpoint is like a specific type of point. We'll be looking at more types as well. Alright, the next term we want to know is parallel lines. And two lines that are in the same plane but do not intersect one another are called parallel lines. And to give you a picture of this, To give you a picture of this, I'm also going to use GeoGebra again, because the idea behind parallel lines is that they'll never ever cross, and they're in the same plane. So you can see that these two lines are in the same coordinate plane, and with the way our window is right now, you can see they don't ever cross. But who's to say that they don't cross way farther beyond, maybe outside of what we can actually see? Well, I'm just gonna zoom out a bit, and you can see, well, they still look pretty good so far. And it doesn't matter how far I zoom out, they're really never gonna cross. You can, as I zoom out, it looks like they're getting closer together, but that's just because of the way zooming works. But you can see that they still have never crossed yet, and they never will either, because they're parallel lines. Alright, so to follow with that, perpendicular lines are not only not parallel, but they also intersect to form a right angle. So to reiterate that, perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect one another to create a right angle. So clearly these are not parallel, but there are a lot of different types of intersecting lines, but because perpendicular lines are special in that they form a right angle when they intersect. So not all lines can do that. And you can see the right angle right here. And in class we'll actually find out how not only is this angle a right angle, but the other three angles that are formed here are also right angles. And we'll be able to prove that too. Alright, so that's all the terms that we need to go over, and then we'll be diving more into these in class later. So I hope you have a good understanding of these and are excited to learn more about the basic terms of geometry.